Why climb an 18,000-foot mountain? It's hard. If you don't climb that mountain, nothing bad happens. No one's bills are going to be late, no one's mortgage is going to go unpaid, no one's going to die. You don't have to do any of it, and yet you do it anyway. To frame it for you, I'm sitting here at 1,000 feet in Atlanta, okay? I woke up without a splitting headache and breathing as much extremely humid oxygen as I wanted to. It was not at 13,000 feet, which is where you start if you're going to summit a mountain like Pico de Orizaba. It's harder to breathe, it's harder to walk, it's harder to think, it's harder to move. Humans aren't supposed to be there. Fortunately for us, you get to do half the climbing the minute you land the airplane, because Mexico City, where you start the trip, is at 7,300 feet. I step off the plane and I walk directly into the bowels of an Econoline van driven by Rahulio. And then in front of me is Mark Tucker, our badass guide, a surfer from Huntington Beach who somehow left Southern California to climb cold, forbidding mountains around the world. How long have you been doing this?
Professionally guiding for close to 30 years.
I'm just gonna throw names out here. Everest.
Yeah, and then Everest 16 trips now.
Aconcagua.
Maybe 15 times or something, so.
You've lost track of how many times you've climbed the tallest mountain in South America.
Pretty much.
Yeah, okay. We drive up and up and up through mountain roads to where we're going to be acclimatizing. And we're really not sure what this thing is. It's a police outpost, sure. It also looks like a weather station. And what we need to do, if we're going to do it properly, is to climb something smaller to warm up, acclimatize through the week, and then make a big push to Orizaba at the end. That's the plan, at least. We take a van out to where we're going to do our first acclimatization hike.
Nice to get out here in the hills, isn't it there, Spencer?
Yes. I'm going to say yes.
Just for a
because I have a positive mental attitude.
limited amount of time, huh?
You won't see this part in the movies, but a maintenance break is pretty much what keeps you going if you're moving at high altitude. It's kind of boring, and it's kind of just a bunch of little details all thrown together, and it's one of those things that makes a difference.
Yep, slow and steady. We'll get into a break up here, and it's not really for resting. We're gonna just help maintain ourselves to take another stretch ahead.
Mark is playing one of the world's most boring games, which is remembering the individual status of everyone in the party right down to the smallest possible details.
We need to get out the water, a little bit of food. We need to make any adjustments.
What if everything just hurts equally?
Then that's pretty standard.
Okay, good.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
that's what I thought.
That's pretty much how we roll out here. We refer to it, not that you would know what a hangover feels like.
No.
But a little bit of that feeling, we're just a little groggy, not unusual to be a little out of breath. We're gonna be in what we call a non-living zone. And this is where nobody belongs. Step with your breath. Look for that trail within the trail. Small steps, big breaths.
There's all these little questions that you're supposed to ask yourself at every single step. Are you breathing right? You never ask that at sea level. If you're climbing with Mark Tucker, you're gonna hear this noise.
Yep.
What am I trying to do when I'm making that ridiculous sound?
We're hoping to pop open some of those little air sacs that are at rest, getting rid of that that CO2 buildup and getting in the fresh oxygen.
To be honest, I'm feeling really bad at this point. Just physical effort of any sort becomes a burden at that kind of altitude. So when we come back, you have to do something else that you don't see in any mountaineering movie or story, which is a whole lot of nothing. When you're not acclimatizing, you're still acclimatizing. And one great way to acclimatize, take your mind off that headache and how bad you might be feeling at altitude, is to play poker.
Well, acclimatization at its finest.
Is extremely scientific acclimatization. How do you do it?
On Everest, sure, we'll play some cards, we'll have ongoing battles with the chess and Scrabble and chill out in your tent, watch a movie. Great golf.
There's a lot of time killing in mountaineering. We're on our second acclimatization hike, and we're heading up, way past the tree line.
Nice, steady pace. Next thing you know, we'll be at another one of those wonderful breaks. How you doing, big guy?
I'm here.
Now, I try and maybe throw a layer on if we're gonna be at this break for a while. A little bit of water, a little bit of food. We're not really eating for right now. I'm eating for a half hour from now, okay? You know, we burn through so many calories up here. This environment is just taking it out of you. So using this kit effectively to try and make it a little easier on us.
Because this could turn on us fast. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
faster than people know. The way that everything is built, you can't see the weather until it's directly on top of you. In this case, it was rain. And that rain in time can turn to ice or it can turn to snow. And that's where it gets scary.
Yeah, let's just hunker down in here. If you don't like the weather 1 minute, just give it another couple, right?
Yeah, when do we, I don't know, how do you decide?
Well, you know, this is the beauty or the beast of the nature of this sport. Got to reevaluate the whole time. You know, I've probably turned around on more mountains than I have summited. You know, that's what keeps us alive up here in the hills. And I think it may be of best interest to start heading in the other direction.
Agreed.
We've got bold climbers, we've got old climbers, but not a lot of old bold, if you know what I mean.
We leave the Bonneville compound for a good reason. We have to go down. Sometimes in mountaineering, in order to go up, one must go down. And in this case, we have to go down to Puebla, a beautiful colonial city where we have to do a number of other things. We have to rest. We have to do things like look at a big, beautiful old cathedral, maybe get your passport locked in a hotel safe. Oh, and we have to play a little more poker. We leave Puebla and head to the town of Tlaxcala. Tlaxcala is where we find Senor Reyes, who's going to be our host and where we will get all of our gear together, and then later that night we will head up to the mountain hut where we will wait to make our ascent on Pico de Orizaba. And getting your gear together is very therapeutic because if you have something to do and a lot of little details to fidget over, you don't worry about the big stuff. Are you prepared? Probably not. Are you in shape? Definitely not. Have you ever done this before? Nope. To get to Pico de Orizaba, you've got to go out of town, up into the hills, and then you have to go into the national park itself. And then you see a hut, and then you see the mountain itself. Just a big heap of volcanic ash and rock. And that's where we're going to go, starting at night. You don't want to be up late on the mountain. If you're up late on the mountain, it tends to get into the afternoon. And when you get into the afternoon, you tend to get into weather. And that's why you want to give yourself as much time as possible and start as soon as possible. And as soon as possible for us happens to be somewhere around 11:30 p.m. It was time to go.
Well, did you get some sleep, big guy?
I got like an hour.
We're gonna work the mountain today there, Spence. Don't let it work you, okay, buddy?
Your world gets very small very quickly when you're hiking at night. All you can see is the person in front of you because you're hiking with a headlamp. There's no light pollution. The vast amount of space between you and your goal, you can't see any of it. You become this boring little diligent machine just kind of cranking up the mountain as you go. And you find that you actually have some of the habits that Mark wanted to instill in you overall to get you up the hill.
A couple of steeper steps here, just shorten the stride.
And I was feeling good. But this is why you maybe shouldn't trust your brain, because if you look at how this is going, I clearly don't look good.
He's feeling great, aren't you?
I mean, relatively.
Well, you know, up here at 16,000 feet, if you feel normal, that's when I start getting a little concerned. You know, you're gonna be feeling a little bit edgy, so don't get mentally upset or anxious. We're gonna be getting a little beat up here. It just comes with the territory. So do what we need to do, and guess what? We got a couple more minutes till we get the heck out of here
Yeah, I'm trying to keep down half a Cliff Bar.
Holy moly.
I didn't feel good. And it didn't improve. You're just hiking in the dark for hours on end. And the terrain never gets better and the footing never gets easier. Sunrise at sea level is this gradual thing. It takes like 30 minutes. That's not how it happens in the mountains. We're moving uphill, cold and miserable. And then someone turns the lights on. Boom! And you turn around and there is the entire world below you. And it's glorious, it's warming up. Everyone for the first time in this entire climb is feeling good all at once. And we're too late. We were well past our window. We were too slow in getting up there. We're looking at going down the mountain at 6 p.m. So at 17,000 feet, just shy of the glacier, we turned around.
We're not making it.
It's all relative up here in the mountains, man. What are you talking about?
We failed.
I want you to think about the things that you have done, how high we've gotten. You know, a couple thousand to go, this time of day, a little bit of weather moving in. Let's call it good for today. Man, I don't want to push it too hard. I want you to come off this thing healthy. I want you to come off this thing uninjured. When you come off this thing hungry for another mountain.
And it is a cliche to say that it's more about the journey than the destination. And cliches are true. It was still physically the hardest thing I think I've ever had to do. So we descended the mountain, but we were still at altitude and we still had time to kill. So naturally, we played poker. Mark did everything he could. He turned everybody into at least a mediocre mountaineer. You had 4 people who've never tried this before and who essentially went, to pardon the cliche, all in.